Please pray with me. Lord, we're thankful for today, a day like this, and I just pray, Lord, for your Spirit to be tender to us, that our hearts would be listening to you, and through Dave, just give him real clarity and freedom to speak the words that you have for him, and really encourage us, and Lord, may we just be able to learn personally more about you and to honor and worship you today, and let you live your life through us in Christ's name. Amen.
All right, thank you. We know what's really fun today is that we are streaming live on the internet. So you can, I'm not sure if I'm getting feedback, but you can now tap into our streams live and on demand later on via your phone or your iPad or your computer. And so I know that we've invited people to watch our streams from Maine to California and all over the country. And literally, you could watch it anywhere in the world. So if you know of people who you know would enjoy these presentations, feel free to send them the link from the workforceministries.com website. Love to build that audience. And well, let's begin. Today we have an excellent speaker. His name is Dave Ridley. Dave retired from the Southwest Airlines in January 2015, and after a 27-year career. And during this period, he served as senior executive in a variety of operational, commercial, and staff functions, including Senior VP, Chief Marketing Officer, Senior VP, People and Leadership Development, Senior VP, Business Development, and VP, Ground Airport Operations. Since 1998, he was a member of the Executive Committee, the CEO staff responsible for strategy and corporate policy. During Dave's years at Southwest, from 1988 to 2015, the company grew from a $700 million in revenue regional airline flying to 26 cities to become the largest domestic airline in the United States with nearly $20 billion in revenue, now flying to 97 cities in 40 states, Mexico, and the Caribbean. Southwest is the only airline in the world to post a profit every year for the past 41 years. Right. And it consistently ranks in Fortune's top 100 most admired companies in the world. Its unique culture is well known and recognized as a reason why Southwest is generally regarded as one of the best corporations to work for in the world. While retired from full-time Southwest employment, Dave has retained an office at Southwest and serves as senior advisor to the CEO. A native Texan, Dave earned his BBA in the Honors Business Program at the University of Texas in Austin in 1975 and received his MBA at Southern Methodist University in 1981 while working full-time. Prior to joining Southwest in 1988, he worked in marketing and business development capabilities with several Dallas area companies. He's enjoyed 34 years of undeserved good fortune as a husband of Mary Ridley. They are the grateful parents of 2 married daughters and a recently married son, as well as the grandparents of the 4 most beautiful granddaughters in the world. Would you please give an AOL and Workforce Ministries welcome to Dave Ridley.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much. That was a lovely introduction since I wrote it. And the truest parts of it are the fact that I am a grateful husband of Mary Flo Ridley. She said, Mary, I think you was looking at the notes and said, Mary, that didn't say Mary Flo Ridley, does it? He said, yes, Mary Flo. You can tell we're from Texas. I didn't marry a girl with a double last name, a double first name, excuse me, which takes me back to my West Texas roots. My first girlfriend in the first grade was Sally Ruth, followed by Mary Kay, Patty Lou, and Dixie Ann, and I ended up marrying Mary Flo. So we're all into these double names, double first names. So I am pure Texan through and through, but it's a privilege to be here and taking your very valuable time here as we enter the greatest weekend of the year. Amen? Amen. Christ is risen. He is risen indeed. Well, I was just wondering when got contacted to speak, why do you want someone from the airline industry to come and listen for you to listen to for 30 or 45 minutes of your valuable time? Because, you know, up until the last couple of years, the airline business was generally a non-profit industry. In fact, Southwest was the exception to the rule, but since commercial aviation began in the early 1930s, more money was lost in the airline business than was made. That has been rectified the last couple of years as finally supply and demand has created a balance so some of the other airlines can make money, but Southwest has been fortunate to make money since the second year of our inception in 1971. I only need to remind you of some of the household names that have come before Southwest that no longer exist in your friendly skies, such as Northwest or Continental or US Air or Eastern or TWA or Pan Am or Braniff or Western or America West or Allegheny or Piedmont or Ozark or Republic, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's been a rugged industry. And what I want to humbly share with you today is described in my title as Love Lessons, and the love comes from LUV, which is the New York Stock Exchange symbol for Southwest Airlines, if you didn't know. If you thought you were in a marriage counseling seminar coming to hear love lessons, you're in the wrong place. But I want to talk a little bit about the Southwest story as a believer, talk about LUV and what you might draw from that. But I do want to end with the ultimate love lesson, which is LOVE, and what we celebrate this week. But let's talk about Southwest and those LUV lessons for a second, if I might. As the intro said, we started in 1971, for those of you who are not familiar with Southwest, and we do not have the presence here in the D.C. area that we have in other parts of the country, so some of you may not be that familiar with Southwest, but we began in 1971 with 3 airplanes flying to 3 cities in the state of Texas, 198 employees, 12 daily flights. And over the ensuing 44 years, Southwest has grown, as my introduction said, to the largest domestic airline in the country, from those 3 airplanes to now 700, from 198 employees to 46,000. To become the largest airline in the country, we have a 25% market share in the domestic U.S. 1 out of 4 people who get on an airplane today in the good old U.S. of A. are getting on a Southwest LoveJet. And we have consistently ranked as one of the most admired companies in the world in Fortune magazine's ranking every year. But most importantly, one of the records of which we are most proud and which I have been fortunate to be a part of for 2/3 of Southwest's existence is the fact that in an industry that is rife with downturn, rife with challenges, rife with economic catastrophes, ups and downs, we have never involuntarily laid off an employee for 44 years. So the question is, in the early part of my remarks today, is, well, how does that come across? How does that happen? Again, Love Lessons is a bit presumptuous as a title because it perhaps infers that I'm being pedantic, that I'm being lecturous. And friends, I do not want to come across as that. A great quote from Samuel Johnson, the 18th century English philosopher, says, people need to be reminded more than they need to be instructed. And so all I'm doing today is reminding you of things that I'm sure you've heard and I'm sure you know. I'm simply reminding you. I'm not instructing, I'm not wagging a finger at you. I'm reminding you of principles that have led to Southwest success that, frankly, some of them are very much based in the gospel. But it is not a gospel-centered company. But those don't have to necessarily be in sync. You can have a great organization that is based on love, L-O-V-E, as Southwest Airlines is based on love, without the gospel being at its headship. But those of us in this room understand that it's a heck of a lot easier to love people when we know that we have been loved first. So the love lessons begin with this idea. Let me take you back to a very dark period in our history. September 11th, 2001. Not far from here, you know what happened. Some of you may have been affected by that personally, by that tragic attack on our country. And I do not want to be flippant about and bring back some kind of raw memories. But let me take you back to that period for a second. And let me ask you if during the weeks that followed 9/11, if you could imagine sitting down and writing the following, not to your church, not to your civic club, not to your local PTA, but to a company. A letter that goes like this, dateline September 19th, 2001. 8 days from that tragedy, someone sat down in their office or in their living room and typed the following: Dear Southwest, I can't put it off any longer. I've got to tell you. For years, while the press was depressing me with stories about drive-by shootings and government and business corruption, gosh, that could have been written last week. I could always look at one bright star to restore my hope and faith in my nation and our way of life. That would be my church. No, that's not what he said. That star was a business, demonstrating everything that's right about America. It treated its customers to the lowest prices as it treated its employees with the highest respect. A respect reflected back to the customers by grateful employees. I never met one I didn't like. Now that our battlefield is not across an ocean, now that our front line is at our local airport, now that our airlines are wounded, I don't want to lose my shining star. I don't want to see a single friend let go. Though I have no need to fly for the next 4 weeks, I am thumbing my nose at our enemies by flying 4 unneeded flights in the skies of my favorite nation on my favorite airline. God bless you, God bless America, and God bless Southwest Airlines. Chuck Harris, Houston, Texas. September 20th, 2001, to the people at Southwest Airlines. I'm sorry for the difficult times you'll undoubtedly face in the near future as a result of the events of September 11th. I do know, however, that you have a great bunch of people. People who will come through this most challenging period, as you always have. You will exemplify the spirit of America. I appreciate all that you have done for me through the years, and please let me know if there's anything else I can do to assist you. My best wishes, Tim Adams. And I would say finally, except this is not finally, my friends, we had packages of letters like this that were in the hundreds in that first 30 days after 9/11. These are just 3 that I drew from. And again, the greeting to the special people. Now, this is love lessons. And the love lessons is how does Southwest be successful? And you're not hearing me, and you're not hearing these letters have people write and say, you've got the great prices, you've got the great bag policies, you've got the great on-time performance. No, they're writing letters out of their heart and expressing love to an airline of all things. How many people love an airline? And they're writing the greeting to the special people. I'm just an average person, not rich, not an executive or a CEO, but a Southwest customer nonetheless. I know that you are suffering difficulties in these recent tragedies, but you're not shaking my faith in Southwest. Your airline is always my first choice. Your people are creative, caring, resourceful, and have the great ability to think outside the box. Grandpa is flying out tomorrow. This was dateline September 13th. September 11th, planes are grounded. September 12th, no planes are flying in the United States of America. And September 13th, no planes are flying. The day that they're flying, she's buying 4 tickets and putting her grandpa on an airline, on Southwest Airlines. I'm just one small voice, it's true, but I know many feel the same way that I do. With sincere appreciation, Rose Jansen, Salt Lake, Utah. So what is behind Southwest success? Great strategy, great business model that many of you studied in business school, the cases, find your niche, operate well, great marketing plans, great finance balance sheet, hedge your fuel, all the things that some of you may have read, studied in Southwest. That's not what people are writing us about. That's not what's grabbed their hearts. What's grabbed their hearts is our people. And so love lesson number 1 very clearly is what Herb Kelleher, our founder and chair emeritus, said. The business of business is people. I'm just reminding you. Truly, I'm just reminding you. That's not an aha. You don't walk out and say, this guy from Southwest just enlightened me off the mountaintop because he said the business of business is people. I'm just reminding you. And the business of life and of ministry is people. It's not policies and programs and strategies. It's people. So how does Southwest claim to be, as we did in our advertising campaign in the late 90s, that we are a company of people, not a company of planes? How does Southwest, even today, the newest advertising campaign, and say, if it's without a heart, it's just a machine? See, we're not a machine because we're a company of people. And how do we get there? Well, we get there in three ways, and quickly let me just run through some things. First of all, we give our people a purpose. Now, this is kind of axiomatic in today's world of lecturers and book writers or whatever about you got to have a purpose. So I don't claim to making this up or being forward-thinking in this. I'm just reminding you. But Southwest has a clear purpose that grabs the hearts of our people, and that is this, that we exist to connect people to the things that are important in their lives through friendly, reliable, low-cost air travel. Okay, that sounds very axiomatic perhaps. So how does that translate? It translates even back to 1991. I was in the third year of my job at Southwest Airlines. Southwest Airlines at that point had been in existence for 20 years. I came in 1988. It started in 71. I get a phone call as Director of Marketing in 1991. And I answered the phone just directly through to my line, and this is Dave Ridley, and this guy says, well, I'm John Smith. And I just wanted to call someone at Southwest Airlines and thank you for what you have allowed me to do. And I said, well, sir, what is that? How can I help you? And he said, well, just pass this along to somebody. But I got out of college, and this is his caller, says, I got out of college in 1972, and started a manufacturer's rep job here in Dallas. And I have expanded my company over the ensuing 20 years, never having to open a satellite office, being able to get to and from areas around Texas and the Southwest on your schedule, get back home to be with my children as they were growing up and just hit the ballet performance or make the Friday night football game, not having to be on the road. And I've just sent my first child to college because what Southwest Airlines has done for my family. You see, we connected people to the important things in their lives, to making a sales call, being able to do it in an affordable way. It is a kind of rally and a purpose that our organization has that grabs our employees' hearts and makes them patriots and not mercenaries, to do remarkable things, to be very loyal, and to result in a lack of turnover, 2% turnover in a retail business. We have 2% involuntary turnover. So for those of you who are on the financial side of business and trying to see where all this lovey-dovey translates into bottom line, well, it translates in the bottom line because we have loyalty, because our people understand they're about something bigger than themselves. We have a purpose. And then we get the right people. Jim Collins, in his great 1999 book, Good to Great, coined the phrase, first the who and then the what. And getting the right who is critical. At Southwest Airlines, we go after the right who that has 3 behavioral values, not 6, 7, 11, 25 values that some companies create and they put on their break room walls, and you ask the CEO walking down the hallway, can you tell you what your company's values are? And he can't even enumerate the 3 of the 7 because been there, done that? You've seen that? No, we just have 3. 3 very clear behavioral values that we're looking for in our people. And that is, we want a warrior spirit. Yeah. Now, well, that means work hard. Now, how do you get stirred up to say, our values are to work hard? No, see, that's not emotional. See, we're an Irish company. See, we like emotions. And a warrior spirit connotes, I'll do whatever it takes to win. I'll do whatever it takes to keep a customer. I'll do whatever it takes to overcome the events of 9/11. We want a warrior spirit. A warrior spirit looks like somebody like this. Looks like a story written about Bruce Rennie. He said, I just wanted to say thank you and tell you about one of your employees at the ticket counter here in Jacksonville by the name of Bruce Rennie. I was returning home from a flight from Fort Lauderdale and caught an earlier flight ahead of my bags. And rather than wait around for my bags, Mr. Rennie, who does not even work in the baggage claim office, said, go on home to Amelia Island, 90 minutes away, and I'll bring your bags home after work, which he did. He goes on to say, he offered to pick the 2 bags up for me and bring them home to Amelia Island. It's now after 10:30. He's done exactly that after a long day of work, off the clock, by the way, because he did whatever it takes. He's got the warrior spirit. And he goes on to close, and I can't help this because I still have marketing blood in my head, and some of you may not tried Southwest, so I have to throw this one in. He says, for my part, I intend to shift as much of my current business away from Delta to Southwest as my schedule will allow. He's won another dedicated customer to the team. That's what the warrior spirit looks like, but let's balance that with the servant's heart. We want our folks to have the servant's heart. Well, what does the servant's heart look like? It looks like this. Dear Southwest, my husband and I recently flew to Las Vegas on Flight 1287 on a Friday afternoon. When we got to our hotel, he realized that he had left his Bible in the seat back pocket on the plane. All right, audience, wake up. He's going to Vegas, and he left his Bible on the plane. All right? Thank you. Sorry I had to point that one out to you. We figured that his family treasure was lost forever. That is, until we got back to Oakland a few days later and picked up a voicemail on our home phone. It was from Flight Attendant Angela Johnson. She had left a message saying that she had found the Bible, looked inside and found our address and phone number, and she just wanted to let us know that she had it, and she was FedExing it the next day. It arrived with a handwritten note and 2 McDonald's gift cards. I cannot express to you how impressed we were with this act of kindness. You have a customer for life. Thank you. So, Angela Johnson, when she went through 4 weeks of very rigorous flight attendant training with that big 3-inch ring binder that we all kind of dread when we go to training classes, and do you think in tab 6, 3, parenthesis 1A, it says on an event that you find someone's Bible in the back of an airplane, this is what you do? No. What it says is, when you have an opportunity to serve people the way that you would like your grandmother, your sister, your daughter, your neighbor to be served, just treat them like you would like them to be treated. And you go out of your way because you've got a servant's heart, because you work for an organization that understands the golden rule cuts across all religions. It's not endemic to just Christianity. Treat others as you'd like to be treated. And so that's what we look for our employees, with the servant's heart. And then we look for a fun-loving attitude. If you can't figuratively and literally take a pie in the face at Southwest Airlines, you're not going to last very long. That was proven very clearly a few years ago when our vice president of people walked out into the lobby, and here's 18 pilot applicants, 16 men and 2 women, sitting stiffly in their blue pinstripe suits, white shirts, red regimental ties, black wingtips, and the 2 women were not dressed too different than that either. And they were all anxious because they were going to come prove to Southwest what kind of pilot they were, and how great they were, and technically how competent they were. And here's my resume, and I was a Top Gun in San Diego, etc., and so forth. And she says, guys, loosen up, guys and gals, euphemistically. Follow me over to the down the hallway, and she proceeds to pick out 18 pairs of red Hawaiian jams, okay, swimsuits, swim trunks, which our flight attendants at that point wore on Fridays along with their polo shirts and tennis shoes. Go across the hallway to respective bathrooms and put on your jams and conduct your interviews, the most important interview of your career, in your red jams over the calf, black socks, wingtips, white shirt, red regimental tie, and blue coat. Well, we conducted 16 interviews that day. All right, class, where did we start? 18, 16, 2 walked out the front door. They simply couldn't handle not taking themselves too seriously. See, we're looking for people who have what it takes to work hard, to care about others, but take the lives of their customers very seriously, the threats of our competitors very seriously, but don't take themselves very seriously. Well, I could give a whole lecture and bore you further in some lessons about, well, how do you do that hiring? But let me just tell you one really quick thing, and this is for those of you who are doing the hiring, for those of you who may get hired someday. And that is this: you're always looking for clues when you're hiring to get the right people. Dave Ridley is a humorist, one of my favorites that I read, and a few years ago he wrote 16 things it took me 50 years to figure out. And I won't go through all 16 because we don't have time, but just to give you a flavor of his wisdom, the first one was never under any circumstances take a sleeping pill and a laxative on the same night. Hey, this is smart stuff, guys. Forget the love lessons. Now pay attention, all right? And another one was, you should never say anything to a woman that even remotely suggests that you think she's pregnant unless you can see an actual baby emerging from her at that moment. 13th on the list out of 16, however, caught my eye, and it says, a person who is nice to you but rude to a waiter isn't a nice person. In parentheses in red, this is very important. Pay attention. It never fails. Hiring the right people is critical to create a culture of great people. Getting rid of the wrong people. You see, the biggest disservice you can do in an organization is allow the misfits to continue. See, I believe theologically and from a faith perspective that we're called to love people unconditionally because we are loved unconditionally because of what happened on Easter Sunday. But I don't believe that we're called to employ people unconditionally. Get rid of the weeds. You got to get the right people. You got to create an environment where they know that they are the most important customer. We truly see our employees as the internal customer that trumps the external customer. That's hackneyed and axiomatic, I know. Take care of your employees, they'll take care of the customers, they'll take care of the shareholders. Axiomatic, but at Southwest Airlines, it's true. It's a love lesson. And then it comes to many of you in this room. You can hire these great people. You can create a culture around them where they feel valued and appreciated for a while, but then those of us with rank, title, and serial number despoil it. Lousy leadership can mess up good people in a heartbeat. Say amen. Because some of you have been victimized by that. And some of you have victimized others earlier in your career by doing the same way. By not treating people with the respect that they deserve. And what does leadership at Southwest look like? Well, it starts with this idea. It is not about power. It's about privilege. Not privilege in that the airline that you're self-important by being a leader, but it is a privilege to lead people in an organization. You know, Gallup did some research recently where they did what's called famous conjoint analysis. How's that for a big muckety-muck marketing word? So conjoint analysis means you do comparative side by side. If this or this. You choose this or choose this. And what they found is that more people would rather stay home and mop the floors than have lunch with their boss. How's that for a great statement about bosses? You know, boss is often a four-letter word. Because, see, people confuse the idea that boss is a noun to think it can be a verb and you can boss people around. No one wants to work for a bossy boss. No one does. You see, it's about moral authority, not positional authority. Yes, it's axiomatic again. I'm just reminding you, this is nothing new. I really just graciously try to say, nothing I've said is new, but it is an inverted pyramid. You've seen it, you understand it. But at Southwest Airlines, we try to live it. You know, if there was an icon for effective leadership at Southwest, now I say if, because there's not. This is Dave Ridley making this up. So people out there on the internet, okay, I'm making this up, but if it were, this is what it would look like. It would be a big international sign of no, the big circle, red circle with a slash. Okay, in your mind's eye, you get it. And underneath it says BS. And it means no bull, poop. But no, really what it means is no big shots tolerated. You cannot be a big shot at Southwest Airlines in any form of leadership and last very long. You get rooted out because you see it's not about you. Now, every one of you in this room have a vision of when I say the title, say the word, the acronym CEO. And some of you aspire to be a CEO, and some of you have been a CEO. And particularly to younger audiences that I have the privilege to speak to, I talk about being a CEO and the wheels turn because they're 27 or they're 32 or they're 40 and they're on the upward path and they want to be a CEO. But others just say, you know, I'll never be that, and that's just where I just disagree. Now, this is truth in advertising here, red alert, this is silly, okay? I'm just giving you, I am about to say is silly. But I believe everyone has an opportunity in leadership to be a CEO, and that's a Chief Encouragement Officer. And that is our call quite often as Christians in the workplace, wherever we are, to encourage others. Because Thoreau did have it right to some extent. The mass of men live lives of quiet desperation. And they're looking for a pat on the back, an encouragement, a note. And oh, friends, we miss it, and particularly as believers in the workplace. Do we walk down the hallway and see someone who is coming out of the restrooms, and there's a security, it's the janitorial service, and they don't have kind of the title or the car or the income, and we just don't ever say thank you for what you're doing. And you're missing it. You're missing a chance to be Christ to them. Now, this is an audience of people wanting to know, well, how do you affect your faith in the workplace? It's not buttonholing people and telling them, sitting them down saying, here's John 3:16. No, it's living it out in a way. Now, I will be perfectly candid. I've spent 27 years, 2/3 of my working career, in an organization, again, which expects people to LOVE, to love each other. And I've not spent life in a draconian organization where people aren't treated that way. So I don't know what it's like there necessarily, although I did have a life before Southwest, and I saw enough of it to say, I don't want that. I don't want to be in that kind of organization. But some of you are in those type of organizations where you're not treated with the kind of way that the Southwest culture is asking people to be treated. You're not led in this way, and my heart goes out to you. And I offer you 2 pieces of advice. You live in the United States of America. You don't live in 1975 Soviet Union. It's a free country. Go work somewhere else. Now, that's flippant because you got bills to pay, you got mortgage due, got a baby due, and it's not easy just to cut and run, go get a job. I understand that, and I want to respect that. But if you have to stay where you are, as a Christian, as a believer, understand that within your sphere of influence, you can make a difference. Yeah, your boss is not a Christian. The boss's boss isn't a Christian. The CEO is not a Christian. It's not valued. All this caring, compassion, and gospel living is not valued in my organization. I understand that's reality. But the Lord has placed you where you are for a purpose. And you can be a CEO. You can pat someone on the back. You can make a difference. Why are we wired that way? I don't know. And I'll testify, I'm 62 years old. I have semi-retired from Southwest. I still serve as an advisor to the CEO. I recently made a presentation to the executive committee of which I was a part of for 17 years. All my friends, all my peers, all my buddies, and male and female. And I made a presentation now in my role that I am in today. I know these folks very well. I'm older than most of them. I work with them. And I'll make a presentation, and a younger man who was there, whom I actually hired in 1992 and has now been elevated into that role, after I made the presentation and went back to my office, he sent me an email. He said, Dave, really good job today with that presentation. Now, my identity is in Jesus Christ. It is not in a pat on the back or a note from a 46-year-old current employee. But the fact of the matter is, it mattered to me. My day was made because someone encouraged me. What a way to live our life as Christians in the workplace if you'll see yourself as a CEO. Who's got the first question?
First of all, Dave, before we start the Q&A, I'd like to, on behalf of Workforce Ministries and our friends at AOL, thank you for being here today. And this not a great time to be traveling in the holiday weekend. I know you want to get back to your family, but we really appreciate your presentation
My pleasure.
today.
Thank you.
And I'd like to offer you this,
Thank you
just
very
a small
much.
token of our appreciation.
Thank you.
Now, we are streaming live, so we'd like to have everybody use a microphone for a question when they have a question. We've got a couple in the back of the room. Is there a question? one over here, right?
In the past, I've heard Southwest talking about putting employees actually before shareholders, or what's the order?
Yes, sir. The question is about Southwest putting employees above the shareholders. I tried to make a nod to that, and in my typical inarticulate way, let me circle back to that. There is no question that the rank order of Southwest is our people, our customers, our shareholders. Now, that does not subordinate shareholder value, because let me just speak to that for a second. From 1971 to 2001, the number two stock on the New York Stock Exchange from 71 to 2001 was Walmart. I think you may have heard of them. The number one stock was that little airline called Southwest Airlines. Did pretty good for our shareholders in that period. We went through a 10-year difficult time after 9/11, and our stock languished a bit. The last 2 years, it has gone through the roof, and in 2014, we were the number one stock on the S&P 500. So it is not a contradiction. Taking care of our people will take care of our customers to engender letters like I referenced. And I referenced those very humbly. I hope it didn't come across with my chest puffed out at all. So grateful for those employees. The 46,000 employees who run this joint. The mechanic who turns a wrench at 3 o'clock every night shift, week in and week out, taking your lives very seriously. The flight attendant on the end of a 4-day trip who has served soft drinks and whiskey and beer and peanuts for 4 days and is dog-tired, but still she cleans up the baby's poop that's on the seat. Or the baggage handler, Dulles Airport, Chicago Midway, Boston Logan, middle of a snowstorm, the bag falls off the cart, trying to get to the flight to load bags, and looks back and goes, "Oh, God, it's cold and I don't want to slow down." No, he stops and picks it up and puts it on because he's treating it as if it's his grandmother's bag. But they cannot do that on a sustained basis if they don't like where they work and who they work for. It cannot happen on a sustained basis. Temporarily, yes. But please don't walk away here without understanding your role as a leader. Focus on the employee, make them number one. That means they're your number one customer, Mr. and Miss Leader. They'll take care of the customer, and that takes care of the shareholder.
Got a question over here.
Yeah, thank you. Really grown to like your ads. Could you talk a little bit about that, how it started, the ideas you all came up with? And
we've got that's a long history. I don't know which ad campaign you're talking about in particular right now. The one thing I'll say this about our advertising: we always keep in mind how our employees will react to our advertising. The worst thing you can do is go out and promise in your advertising a product or a service that the employees can't live up to. So we try to be very careful. Even this current campaign that ends with a brilliant line that I didn't come up with it, but a brilliant line is, "Without a heart, it's just a machine." I mean, can you imagine, I don't know, you name your favorite legacy airline. I'll name all of them. American, United, Delta, who am I leaving out? Claiming without a heart, it's just a machine. I mean, you'd laugh at it. But if you know Southwest Airlines and have flown us, you'd say, you know what, that's the only airline that can say that. So we're always very careful. We want to communicate a value proposition through our advertising, but how will our employees react to it? So we can talk later, but I'll give you that Cliff Notes.
You mentioned that fun-loving. You see that a lot in your ads.
Absolutely. That's right. The sale ad right now, I don't know if you've seen it they're doing the NCAA playoffs. I hope you saw it. We spent a heck of a lot of money. Anyway, with the dance scenes and the wedding scenes, and yeah, that's it's part of our who we are.
Dave?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
I know Southwest started with some fairly simple principles, about 10 or so. Would you talk about the value of that, and especially in helping to know when to say no to new opportunities?
Well, again, that kind of goes back. I'm going to dive real quickly into it a Christian consulting author whom I would commend to any of you to read his material. His name is Patrick Lencioni. Okay, Pat's written 5 Dysfunctions of a Team and The Advantage. And what he talks about in The Advantage, and he uses Southwest as the model, that to be successful in business, you have to be smart, which is you got to have a good strategy, you got to have good finance, you got to have good marketing, you got to have good operations, you got to have all the stuff we go to graduate school for, but then you got to be healthy, and that's the cultural side. So on the strategic side, we were very focused for years, staying in our niche, flying one kind of airplane, flying only domestic, flying certainly hour-and-a-half kind of routes, really cookie-cutter kind of one after another, saying no to a lot of other things like, God, you need to assign seats, because I can go get assigned seats over there. Well, we don't do assigned seats. And I was thinking about this recently, this analogy, but some people don't like us because we don't assign seats. I got it, all right? You know what? I have an iPhone. And I love this thing, but I really wish they would not, if I could go back to having the kind of buttons on it. Dadgummit. No, sometimes you buy a product that's not exactly, you have to have the balance. So we have said no to some things, like some, assigned seats. We have not flown different size of airplanes because of simplicity. It's all on that smart side, if that's what you're referring. So we have been very disciplined on the smart side, never losing sight of, in the end, as Lencioni says, you can be successful for a short term if you're just focused on the smart. But if you don't come over here and understand the healthy side of an organization, which, by the way, he would say, a healthy organization looks like one where there is minimal politics. Wouldn't that be nice? Where there's minimal confusion about what is valued and what is our strategy and where are we going and what's important, where there's a very real clarity in communication, where there's high productivity of your workforce, and where there's low turnover and high morale. Wow. Do you know any company that might look like that? Does your company look like that? Your organization look like that? Minimal politics, minimal confusion, high productivity, high morale, and low turnover. Darn right. The problem is most CEOs don't know how to do that, and they delegate it over to the HR department. You go take that. I'm going to go over on the smart side. It won't work in the long run.
There's a quick question on this here. I'm just curious, based on the size of company of Southwest, how do you institutionalize a lot of these things, especially with employees? How do you empower them, especially, with a servant's heart? You're bound to make mistakes along the way. So you have the instances where the person going out of their way to do certain things, but I'm sure there's stories in terms of mistakes that employees have made. How do you institutionalize
Great
that
question.
Acceptance for mistakes?
Very, very, very great question. Again, just frame of reference, 198 employees in 1971, less than 200. I joined with 7,000 employees in 88. At that time, the founder was still the CEO, and he said, we were told that we could keep this great culture up until 5,000 employees, and then forget it, and then it was 10,000. Well, then forget it. Oh, well, it'll be 20,000, and then forget it. And we just refused to believe that. Two things that were, going back to the question here about strategy, we purposely avoided too much growth each year. We could have grown at 15% a year through the 90s, which 15% compounded is doubling in 5 years. Wall Street would have loved us to do that. But we knew if we brought in 15% new employees every year, that in 5 years down the road, half of the new employees, or half the employee base, would be less than 5-year tenure. And it could be cancerous to this culture. So there was a very clear focus on what the healthy side of the organization. Don't grow to what the marketplace would tell you could grow. Okay? So the other thing is, from the beginning, it is all about leadership. And it's just preached from the day you walk in, whether you start. I came in the middle management. I didn't come in. We have 46 officers today, and over half of them started either in the mailroom or ramp agents or customer service agents. They started from the bottom and came up. Okay, so they saw it all the way. I came in at middle management in 88. But it didn't take, I'll tell you when it hit me. I don't know how our time is. Here's a quick story. When I got promoted to vice president in 1992, 4 years into it, I submitted my first annual marketing plan to my boss, the president of the company, a woman, Colleen Barrett. And it was the typical, spend 3 months on your marketing plan and your financials and everything. I'm so glad I'm through with that the rest of my life. I'll never have to do that again. So there's a benefit to being 62. Not many, but that's one of them. So I submitted this plan and nervously, thought, well, she's going to pour over it and I'm going to, have 1,000 questions. It came back with a memo that was this long, and the first point was something like, great budget, things are improved. This is approved. Second was one kind of question about some element, minor question. And the third was about 5 lines of exclamation marks, all caps, kind of like, pay attention to this, Buster. And it was I had not capitalized in all of my remark and all my input the words customer and the word employee and the word people. At Southwest, she said, every time, you ought to know this by now, you've been around 4 years, but as an officer, you need to understand, never submit anything where the customer with the capital C, where employee with the capital E, and people with the capital P isn't capitalized. Yes, ma'am, I got it.
This is a follow-on to what you just mentioned. 46,000, that's a lot of people, and it's a large group to maintain that culture that you spoke of. So my question is one to organization. Do you have teams, team efforts, team captains? Is there, for lack of a better word, a rank structure? How do you keep the cheerleading going? Everybody has highs and lows, and so you need a smaller group than just capital C's and stuff from the top, and not everybody is going to go from the bottom to the top. So you've got the great mass in between. So how do you keep the team in the huddle and call the plays?
First of all, a lot of hard work, a lot of effort at the top, a lot of communication channels, the things that, again, a lot of reminding here, but the CEO has a Monday call, where you can call in and hear his remarks. He has a 20-minute kind of line, but multiple channels that were kind of traditional. So from the top. But here's my answer. In 1998, I'd been at Southwest 10 years, and I'd been in marketing that whole 10 years. I had at most 200 employees, some of them spread around the country, field marketing offices. But I moved over into airport operations, which was that time was 13,000 employees and 2 labor unions, by the way. And if those of you who think, well, Southwest lovey-dovey culture really works only because we're non-unionized, let me set that aside. Let's let you know that we are 83% unionized and the most heavily unionized airline in the good old US of A. So we're doing this within a union environment. So I moved from this nice, cushy headquarters, professionally educated workforce to airport operations, ramp agents, customer service agents, baggage, what we call operations agents, sky caps. It's a whole new world for me. At that time, 58 airports, 58 at that time. And I'm out in Phoenix, Arizona about a week after I've taken on this role. And I know that I'm largely responsible for trying to maintain this culture within, at that time, that was our biggest workforce, 13,000 out of a total of 25,000 at that time. Because that's who you come in contact. You come in contact with the flight attendants and the people at the airports, okay? And I'm walking out there and I see, and I'm in Phoenix, and I don't know up from down about how to load an airplane. I mean, I'm a marketing schmuck. I don't know anything about operations. So I'm out there trying to learn things, and actually I'd done a day loading bags, but I'm still a bit incognito. No one knows the vice presidents in town. They don't know me. They don't know my face. So I stand out there at Phoenix, which has 2 massive concourses, and I stand in between. There's moving sidewalks both ways, and I get off the moving sidewalk, and here's about 5 airplanes on the ground, and all our employees are scurrying around, about 7 airplanes on the ground over here. And I look out, and the baggage handlers are moving here and there, and here comes the provisioning truck to load the soft drinks, and all this. These people work for me? It's like, and I'm responsible for maintaining this culture? There's no way I can't do that. What do? I decided the best way that I could succeed and maintain, not for me to succeed, but for me to maintain the culture, was to get a team around me, my direct staff, that I trusted, that he trusted me, that we loved each other and shared with each other, build into their lives. Then let them build into the 25 directors under them, who then build into the 56 airport managers, who then build into the department managers, who then ultimately go to the supervisors. And in the end, the ramp agent in Boise, Idaho, or in Manchester, New Hampshire, the customer service agent in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, is not going to get up every morning and say, I love working for Southwest Airlines because of Dave Ridley, the Vice President of Ground Operations. That's ridiculous. They're going to get up and go do the spectacular things because they've got a frontline supervisor who knows the names of their kids, knows who just graduated from college, know that they just missed a mortgage payment and they need a little loan. It's the supervisor to that frontline employee. It's the manager there over the supervisor. It backs back up. That's the only way it works. It is not, there are systems. I don't want to minimize the idea that there are systems, but it's ultimately about modeling. And the modeling doesn't go from me down to the ramp agent. It went from me to my team and their end. I hope that is a satisfactory answer. It's the best I have, whether it's satisfactory or not. I think we're running out of time.
Dave, I've got, this is a first. I've got a question here from the internet.
Okay.
How does the LUV principle inform your fare pricing strategy?
How does the LUV principle? Well, I'm not sure. There's a lot to airline pricing. Some people get frustrated because they buy a ticket for $99 and they sit down next to someone who just bought a ticket for $280. Okay, well, why is that? Maybe that's what the question is implying, that it's not equitable, therefore it's not a LUV principle. Well, the fact of the matter is, if every seat we sold at $99, we'd be out of business. If we sold every seat at $285, we'd be out of business, because customers have different needs. They are willing to pay $99 far in advance and have some constraints on their flexibility. Now, Southwest Airlines, it's very flexible because there's no change fees, but nevertheless, that's how you price, because you know you've given up some flexibility by buying way in advance. But the business person who wants to go to Chicago tomorrow morning, if we sold all the seats at $99, there wouldn't be one for him or her. And so that's important, and the $285 is okay for that person. So that's just the way airline pricing works. I don't know, have no clue whether that addresses the question. Well, it's dave.ridley@wnco.com. And if you want to engage in a dialogue, I'll be happy to do that.
Got a question back here.
Yes, I was wondering, in the environment, with the LUV principle and as an executive at Southwest, how open were you in sharing your faith in Christ?
Mm-hmm. I came to Southwest in 1988. I had worked for a large public company for 4 years, headed by a department head who was a strong Christian. Everyone knew it. He a pillar in his church, a great guy. I got to be very careful with this because I don't know where it's going to. However, there was a situation with him that I saw a ethical question that I didn't think was handled appropriately. Let me just say that. Just a disagreement. Then I went to work for a small company that was headed by a Christian, and the same thing happened. We had Bible studies, like, okay, this is, and it was literally a Christian organization. Everybody was 9 people, okay? Then I go to work at Southwest Airlines, and it's almost like I've been in a time warp from 81 to 88, and I walk in 88, and the language in the workplace is different. The lifestyles, the people sleeping with each other, it's like, man, I've been in a time warp living and working in 2 organizations that were just more Christian, at least on the surface. And I made a commitment at that time that I would try to witness by the way I treated people, by honoring my family first. And it got out. There were people who would come to me And there are Bible studies at Southwest Airlines. But they're almost under the covers and then when I became an officer of the company, I was particularly concerned because of my experience earlier in my career as a younger person where the officer of the company made a pretty big deal about the Bible study. I just didn't want to get caught in either two little conundrums. One is that, high profile Mr. Christian, because I'm a sinner saved by grace through faith. And if I just go out there and wave the flag, I'm setting myself up, setting the Lord's up, setting this lousy witness because of what I had seen. So I was very careful that I wouldn't do that. Secondly, I never wanted to set in a situation where people were trying to play me. As a department head, as an officer of a publicly traded company, I have a responsibility to the shareholders and to the company, and that's to lead and manage people well. And as a believer also, I just want to be very careful that people didn't try to be good, drop names, say they go to church or whatever to try to get in good. That was kind of a distraction that by taking the route that I went, now maybe I was wrong, but the route that I went, it minimized that. It just became known through the years, but it was more important to me to be as consistent as I could and not wear it on my sleeve.
Thank you again, Dave. I think that's a great note to end on. We've had, many great speakers like yourself, and this is just another perspective that I think everybody really appreciates, and I think everybody, you couldn't be more encouraging than encouraging people to be CEOs. So we really enjoyed that, and thank you for that. And before we leave on this special day and this special weekend, I'd like to ask Wayne to come up again and close us in prayer today. If you would stand with us, Dave. Come on.
Thank you. Lord, I'm just grateful for Dave and just the way that you have used him over the years. And Lord, how you have chosen and how you have made us and placed us in very remarkable places for your kingdom. And I just thank you for how you're doing that with Dave and probably many others here. Thank you for this weekend, Lord, the most glorious time as we celebrate, Lord, what you have done for us, your death on the cross and your resurrection that has brought true life, both now and in eternity. And I pray that, Lord, that your Spirit would so speak and so move in our own lives that your life would be freely lived out of us, that we would truly be able to minister and meet the needs of people who need your life this weekend and among us. So I just thank you for today. In Christ's name, amen.